When I, female 20, was 6, my parents died. Since my brother Alan was of age, he was 19, he became my legal guardian. He dumped me out of foster home a couple of months after the funeral and disappeared, and that's where I stayed until my aunt found me. Added for context, my extended family offered to be both our legal guardians, grandparents, aunts, uncles. The thing is, the trust stated that a percentage out of our trust would be given to our legal guardians to help raise us. Alan was older than 18, so nothing would go out of his trust. As I was 6, it was estimated that 30% out of my trust would go to my legal guardian. Alan stuck around long enough to claim my 30% and dumped me. Didn't bother telling the family that offered to keep me. Just dropped me off one day and never came back. My family tracked him down to Vegas and forced him to tell the family where he left me. And that's when I ended up with my current aunt. Some people have sympathy for my brother, but please remember, 1, he never needed to be my legal guardian. Family members offered to step up. He just wanted more money. 2, when he got what he wanted, he didn't tell the people that did want me where I was. Just disappeared. I have forgiven him for that, but he is not the victim here. Alan is a terrible person, and being 19 doesn't justify that. He didn't bother reaching out until one day when I was 9, when he brought his 2-year-old daughter to my aunt's house and disappeared again. I'm very close with her. She knows I'm her aunt, but we consider each other sisters. When I turned 18, I got access to my trust. I also got a house in Amsterdam, which is where I was born and raised until my parents passed. I traveled to see the house mid-2022, and I loved it, so I decided to move back there. I didn't want to be separated from Mia, niece, sister, female 13. So I moved with my whole family, Mia, aunt, and uncle. My brother found out I'm back in Amsterdam. He's now poor as he spent all his money on stupid things. He's been reaching out non-stop, asking for money, and I ignore him. Then he came to my house with his wife and 3 children. My brother says it's mean of me to only take care of one of his children and not the rest. I told him to get a job, but he said he has a criminal record and his wife is disabled. He wants a monthly allowance to support his family and to share the house with them as they live poorly. The truth is, I feel nothing for him. He is not my family. Mia and my aunt and uncle are. Yesterday I was out and my aunt called saying he left his kids outside our house. I didn't want them in my house or my life. I feel nothing for them. Mia is also very uncomfortable with them in the house and says she doesn't want to have to help raise them and she doesn't consider them siblings. My conscience won't let me abandon them at a foster home like my brother did to me, and my aunt and uncle are now retired and very old, 63 and 64, and aren't able to run after them. They're young kids, 9, 7, and 4, but I don't want to put my life on hold to raise strangers. The police are looking for my brother and his wife. If they don't find them, I will look for a nice facility to take them in. I have tried to find it in me to raise them, but I just can't. I cannot imagine putting my life on hold to stay home and play mother with them. Mia doesn't want them in her life. I've retired my aunt and uncle, and they spend their days feeding ducks in the park, and it is unfair to them to raise more kids that aren't their own. Added for context, I turned 20 just 2 weeks ago. I'm a caretaker to a teenager and 2 elderly people. Adding 3 young kids on top of all of that, plus my education, would literally kill me. Being their primary caregiver means I have to step up and be a parent, and I'm still being parented. What I've decided is that I'll make an effort to be in these kids' lives. I honestly don't expect my brother and his wife to turn up, and if they do, I want them arrested. These kids are better off without them. I will look for a flexible situation where I'll be able to visit these kids, take them out on day trips, maybe even have them at my house for some nights. For now, I have a ton of money, and I expect my income to increase once I figure out how to make it work for me at an accelerated level. I will set aside some money for them, as I will for Mia, to give them a nest egg. I will make a conscious effort to be in these kids' lives. My aunt and uncle can't help because, as I mentioned, I retired them. I refused to let them raise more kids. They were amazing parents to me and I still are, and I want them to enjoy their old age and live life. These kids' mom is not Mia's birth mom. I also have zero idea who she is. Met her once when I was ambushed by them outside my house, and she barely spoke. As for the kids, I've been talking to the 9 and 7-year-old. My brother and his wife are crappy parents. They're all boys, and would be left to fend for themselves for days on end. I've talked to the eldest too and explained I can't take them in. I've promised them I will be there for them, and they can call me if they need anything, and I will come. They semi-understand. I'm in contact with a female cop who understands this situation and is helping me navigate everything. There's institutions set in place for instances like mine. I've decided to have the kids for about a week, so I can get to know them and they can get to know me. I remember how sad and hopeless I was at the foster home, and I won't let them feel like that. I'm taking them shopping for some new items. I'll be visiting facilities and homes to see how they are. I'll give the eldest a phone so he can call me, and I'll do my best to be fun auntie. I got their mother's name from them, and they say their grandma from her side is a sweetheart, so we'll explore that avenue as well. As for Mia, I've talked to her and explained that she doesn't have an obligation to be their half-sister, as I don't have an obligation to be their aunt. But I won't go against the values I was raised with, and I'll do my part. She understands, and still wants nothing to do with him. She's young, so I understand where she's coming from. For now, she's avoiding the kids. I've discussed this with my 3 cousins, kids to my aunt and uncle. 2 of them say I have no duty to these kids, and my feelings are valid. One says I'm the a-hole here, as it's my duty to step up and raise them, the same way her parents did. Added context. I told his cousin her parents took me in when they were 49, and I was just one child. We haven't spoken since, but hopefully that will give her some perspective. On another note, my other 2 cousins know of my plan and will fly to Amsterdam at some point, maybe Christmas time, to meet the kids. They've also sent some money to take the kids out, get some new stuff. It's very sweet of them, but we were, after all, raised by the same set of parents. So, would I be the a-hole if I refused to raise them? You're barely an adult with 1 kid already. I don't think you'll be the a-hole. Your brother is for sure. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Ultimately, you need to do what is right for you and them. It is not your responsibility to raise them. It's your brother's, and he's left you in a horrible position. If any family start calling you an a-hole, then suggest that they can raise 3 kids they don't know. Not the a-hole. Your aunt and uncle raised his first kid. You didn't agree with raising 3 kids. As for your cousin who is telling you to raise them, ask that cousin if she would raise them with you. I guarantee they will refuse. However, you, Mia, aunt and uncle, should make an effort to be a regular part of their life, and be a support system. But it is understandable to not want to, or be able to be guardians for any reason. Not only did my ex move to another state to be with another man, but she also completely ghosted me. While we were together, I would help her elderly parents out with things around the house that needed to be fixed, handyman stuff. Her parents were always very nice to me, and I continued to help them after she bounced. I made an agreement with her parents that I would never ask anything about her, nor that I be told about anything going on in her life. I also didn't want them to tell her about anything going on in my life, or that I was continuing to help them with things. 2 years have gone by, and I fixed leaky sinks, taking care of various things around the house, and, when it snows, I'm always there to shovel. Corner house, nuff said. A few months ago, I agreed to install a new faucet on one of their sinks. The faucet they purchased had the wrong connectors to connect to the existing copper piping, so I wasn't able to install it right away. The first time I came back, I'd purchased adapters to mount it, and the adapters had the wrong threading. After another week or so, I came back with more adapters, only to find out that they were straight thread and not pipe thread, so they leaked at the joint. Unable to get the proper adapters, I'd gotten a little frustrated. Then some personal matters came up, and I put the sink on the back burner. Just to be clear, every time I failed an attempt to mount the new faucet, I would remount the original, so I never left them without a functioning faucet. The other day, a friend let me know that there was a post directed to me on one of her socials. It was a rant about how I shouldn't promise to do things for her elderly parents if I wasn't going to, and that I wasn't hurting her by hurting them. Obviously, that meant they were telling their daughter that I'd been helping them. The main reason for the agreement was to facilitate cutting ties with their daughter. I didn't want to be accused of trying to stay in her life or trying to keep tabs on her. I was helping her parents because they're good people that need the help. As a result of whatever they were telling her about me, not only did that give her an excuse to blast about me on social media, but also she managed to skew it into a belief that I wasn't helping her parents as a way to get back at her. So, to me, I did the only logical thing. I went over to her parents' house and reminded them of our agreement, of how they weren't supposed to mention anything about me to their daughter, and that because of this betrayal, I would no longer be able to help them with anything around the house. I was polite and cordial about it, but still have a bad taste in my mouth. After I had left, her mother sent me a series of text messages apologizing, telling me that I was one of the only people they trusted to come into their home and fix anything. Am I going too far by walking away from them? Not the a-hole. You sound like a nice guy, and they took advantage of that. I would tell them, you may trust me to fix stuff in your house, but I can't trust you to keep your word. Ask your daughter for help. Not the a-hole. You did this to get away from her. They'll have to pay someone else to do the work you did for free. It's not your job. Not the a-hole. Not only did they betray your trust and boundaries, but they were clearly also complaining about you to their daughter. Way to bite the hand that feeds you. You were not responsible for them. You were doing an incredibly generous thing, and they didn't appreciate it. Bye-bye. A year ago, I bought what I see as a 26-year-old girl's dream home. At the same time, my 22-year-old sister was graduating college, with no money and no job, and needed a place to stay. We agreed that she could move in with me, and after getting a job, would start paying rent until she got back on her feet. She got a job as a substitute teacher, but was only making $14 an hour. This worked for some time with no issues, until about 3 months ago when she hit rock bottom. She informed me that she could no longer afford to pay rent. At the same time, it was her birthday, so I told her that I would give her 1 month free from rent for her birthday. The following month, she was still struggling, which I hate to see. So I made a deal that if she didn't pay rent again, that she would use the rent money to put towards her debt. She agreed. Now it is month free. She recently downloaded Tinder and allowed a random guy into my home to sleep with him. Now she is pregnant, after not taking her birth control correctly, not wearing a condom, and not making the man pull out. She has told me that she wants to keep the child. I only have one other room as a guest room, and she wants to use that room as the nursery. I mentioned having the child's crib in her room, as to keep the guest room for family friends to come stay and help with the child, or just if they needed it. But she was very unhappy about this option, and did not want to give up her room for the child. Over the last few months, I have had tens of thousands of dollars worth of problems arise, to include having to get a brand new roof, etc. Now, with all the extra payments I have, on top of my sister no longer being able to pay rent, and a soon-to-be newborn, I will likely have to sell my house to be able to afford to take care of my sister and her newborn. It is not my job, but I don't want to see her fail. I want her to have a stable living situation. My parents live far from us and cannot afford to help. And although the baby daddy wants to be involved, she just met him and knows nothing about him or his living situation. We have a close relationship, and I want to support her when she needs it. But I'm now at risk of having to sell my house and find a new place to live in order to be able to help her. She's not helping herself, though, by finding a new and higher-paying job. She keeps saying she will get to it eventually, in regards to getting medical insurance for the baby. She is still under my parents' insurance, and much more, which proves she is not ready maturity-wise. I'm at a loss, because I don't want to give up my dream home in my life for a mistake that I had no part in. But I also never want to see anyone else struggle, or have hardships if I can help in some way. I work full-time on top of overtime already, and now have applied for a weekend evening serving position to try and make extra money before things tank. But would I be an a-hole if I kick her out, or force her to pay rent when she doesn't have the money and needs to save before having a baby? I don't want to give up my dream home and my life for a mistake that I had no part in. Then don't. Please kick her out now. You won't be able to make yourself do it after she has the kid. Not the a-hole. Why should you pay for your sister's life choices? Holy crap. Your sister put you in an awful situation. Not the a-hole. It's wonderful that you want to help, but you should not have to sell your home to support her. You should not have to work extra to support her. Sit her down, tell her the situation you are in, and give her the options. Do not offer to sell your house to support her, then hold her to it. Not the a-hole. Look, you are not financially responsible for your sister, and it's clear she's taking advantage of your kindness. I would put money on it that she's expecting you to pay for not only her needs, but the baby's as well. With that in mind, I would definitely encourage you to give her notice to move out, regardless of her ability to pay rent. It's just not your job to pay for her and her baby, not your obligation, and your sister will learn nothing if you continue to pay her way. You are young and just starting out yourself. You don't need this financial burden that will hinder your own personal financial growth. Your sister is an adult and needs to figure this out for herself. Maybe she moves to wherever your parents live. Otherwise, I would shift your help to strictly helping her find financial aid resources and housing. Haha. I, 42 male, am completely at my wit's end. I have 2 children, a 13-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son. I feel like my daughter is a big baby who can't handle any kind of criticism. My wife says it's not that she can't handle criticism, it's that I'm hypercritical of her. I don't think that's true at all. I'm trying to help prepare her for the real world, but my wife and my ex have said constantly criticizing her isn't helping her. Last week, she brought home a C on a test. I made her redo it until she got it all right. When I asked why that was so hard, she told me that I could have asked why she didn't understand, and actually helped her, instead of barking orders at her. I said I don't like her tone, and she just grabbed her stuff and left. I went to go punish her for her disrespect, but I overheard her on the phone with my ex, saying how much she hates it here, and how she wants to go home and stop visiting me, because, and I quote, he treats me like crap and never sees that I'm not the problem. He is. I got mad she wasn't taking responsibility, and told her fine, and took her home, and in my anger, sent her a text saying since she was being disrespectful, I didn't want her to come back either. She's supposed to come this weekend, but she's refusing. She's saying that I said I didn't want her to visit either, so she wasn't. My ex said she had already spoken to her lawyer, and forwarded him my text, which states in writing I didn't want her back. I'm furious. My lawyer is saying I messed up by doing that, and my wife is saying I should use this time to take accountability instead of passing it off on a kid. I said she should be supporting me, but she just said she couldn't support a-hole decisions. I shouldn't have sent the text, but otherwise, I don't really think I was wrong. So, am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. I made her redo it and asked her why that was so hard. Watch your tone, dude. Like, you have no respect for her as a person. You lash out in anger at a kid who doesn't have the life experience to act like an adult, because she's a kid. You're not trying to teach or assist. You want obedience. Get a dog. You're the a-hole. Your wife, ex-wife, and child have all come to the same conclusion, that you were the problem. Only you refuse to see it. Your parenting approach clearly isn't working, as you've pushed your child away to a point that they don't want to be around you. Congratulations. You can either accept you were wrong and change, or lose your daughter. It's up to you. You're the a-hole. I hope your ex is able to amend the visitation, so that your daughter isn't forced to endure your toxic and emotionally cruel parenting any more than absolutely necessary. By the way, she sounds like an incredibly articulate 13-year-old. Too bad you can't see her strengths.